Before I got my hands on Gran Turismo, there was this. San Francisco Rush. Extreme Racing. Little did I know at the time, this game would mold my expectations for what I thought a fun racing game would be when I was a kid, and subsequently, when I grew older. This is, not forgotten, San Francisco Rush Extreme Racing. Before we start off, I wanted to fill you guys in on some good old nostalgia from when I was just a kid. I first found out about this game when I was 6 years old, 23 long years ago. I'd gone out to the local Blockbuster with my dad on a Friday, and I browsed the video game section looking for something that would catch my eye. If you had the honor of visiting a Blockbuster as a kid, you'd know the vibes. It was magical, to say the least. Anyway, wandering off for a sec, I was presented with a colorful array of games from the N64 and PlayStation sections. They were all set up so that the box art would be outward facing, to draw in the customer. And that's when I saw it. Rush. 2 cars flying through a city at what seemed like breakneck speeds. I instantly grabbed it and read the packaging. "Feel the rush," it exclaimed. Needless to say, I felt the rush as I ran to my dad to show him. He knew I was into cars. I had more Hot Wheels than I could account for, so this choice was of no surprise to him. We rented it out and brought it home. I booted up the N64 and felt the rush. And the rest is history. So before this game actually hit consoles, it started off as an arcade game. San Francisco Rush was a video game developed by Atari Games, and it was first released in arcades in 1996. It was then ported to the N64 and the PlayStation. It would stand as the very first Rush game in the series. San Francisco Rush was built around the 3DFX Voodoo Graphics dual chips. The 3DFX hardware was cheaper to develop than proprietary systems, and Atari used the savings to sell the game at a lower price to arcade operators. It was unveiled in the 1996 Amusement and Music Operators Association, or the AMOA show. After originally looking at maps of San Francisco, knowing that the cars would be going at least 150 to 160 miles per hour, the developers realized that they would instead have to craft an alternate version of the city that was more fun. Despite the fact that San Francisco Rush was a major hit in arcades and cited as a comeback title restoring Atari Games' fortunes as an arcade developer, it didn't do so hot in the port section. Well, one in particular. The PlayStation 1 port suffered, while the N64 port thrived. Critics almost unanimously said that the N64 port satisfactorily emulated the arcade version and praised the console-exclusive content. While on the other hand, reviewing the PlayStation version, certain reviewers praised the better steering when it came to sharp turns, but unfortunately criticized the graphics and inconsistent frame rate. All of these reviews added up to a 39% average score for the PS1 port and an 83% average score for the N64 port. I originally had rented out the N64 port with my father from Blockbuster, but having then returned it after our renting time was up, we had gone out to the store and eventually purchased the PS1 port of the game. This would be the version I would come to love, as though it may have been bug-ridden and not as clean as the N64 port, the soundtrack was an absolute banger. Even to this day I find myself still humming the menu theme. Some 15 years later, after I had started a collection and a hobby of collecting classic video games, I was able to find a loose copy of the N64 version of San Francisco Rush. The irony being that this loose copy had Blockbuster stickers on the side of it. It's almost poetic if you think about it. I couldn't believe it when I saw it. I really wish I could show you guys, but unfortunately the game is at my mom's house in some boxes thanks to me moving around so much. To substitute that in, here's a really cool image I found on Reddit when doing some research for this video. It showcases the exact point where Midway used the promotional artwork for San Francisco Rush in the real world. All in all, San Francisco Rush was a solid entry to the library of racing titles on consoles. It went on to spawn 2 sequels, of which are favored more so by fans alike. San Francisco Rush is special to me for the simple fact that it was my first experience with a racing title quite like this, especially nowadays with most racing games focused on sim or hybrid sim racing. Stepping back to a time where death-defying jumps, extreme arcade physics, and neon-colored hypercars reign supreme is really enjoyable and a breath of fresh air. So, that leads me to ask you, is it real, or is it Rush? Thanks for watching. The information in this video was sourced directly from Wikipedia and Reddit boards, of which are presumed to be true with no false information found. If you guys enjoyed this style of video, I'd like to announce that I will be doing one not forgotten video per month, and that there are already 2 other entries in this series. I'll link the playlist here. Be sure to subscribe if you enjoyed this, and thank you so much again.